opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, Weird Town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them, and they tell you don't go to the house on the hill, and it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like, could it? And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track.
Do you think that Hollywood's or actors on the whole have cleaned up their act nowadays? Does it feel a healthier place and a healthier environment?
I don't know. I think it's just gone more underground.
Okay.
It's always been a pretty crazy place for that.
Yeah.
But it's always been kind of underground. You mean with all the Me Too stuff and
everything.
or everything. Yeah. He says in New York you might get mugged, or they'll say F you, or whatever. But in Los Angeles, it's kind of like they want to sacrifice you. That there are big realms, spiritual realms. There's good, there's evil, and they are slugging it out for the souls of mankind. And my question is, why are we even important? Little old flawed humanity, why are we important in that process where the big realms are slugging it out over us?
Mel Gibson, a name that's echoed across Hollywood for over 4 decades. An actor, director, and producer who rose to international fame with Mad Max and Lethal Weapon, Gibson became one of the most bankable stars in cinema history. He's won Academy Awards for Braveheart, directed box office powerhouses like Hacksaw Ridge, and is widely recognized for his bold, uncompromising approach to storytelling. But beyond the flashing cameras and blockbuster hits lies a man whose life has been marked by dramatic turns, not just on screen, but in spirit. Raised in a devout Catholic household, Gibson's early years were steeped in tradition and faith. Yet, like many in the glare of fame, he faced turbulence, personal struggles, controversy, and a very public fall from grace. It was in the shadows of these trials that Gibson's faith came sharply back into focus. His 2004 film The Passion of the Christ wasn't just a cinematic gamble, it was a personal mission, born from a deep conviction and a desire to share the story of Jesus in the most visceral way possible. The film became a cultural phenomenon, sparking global conversation and revealing the depth of Gibson's religious devotion. About that, let's see him talk about the sequel to The Passion of the Christ.
Yeah, well, the resurrection is the one that is the most difficult for people to swallow.
Yes.
That's the one that requires the most faith.
The most faith and the most belief, resurrection.
Yeah.
Who gets back up 3 days later after he gets murdered in public? Who gets back up under his own power? Buddha didn't do that shit.
Right.
So.
You believe that was a real event?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
What brought you to that belief? Is this something that you've always had, or is it something you studied it and you've come to this conclusion because of the historical accounts? And
yes, I think as a child, one accepts things on faith because you're raised by people who are nice to you and they believe it. And my dad was a pretty smart guy. He was like Mensa smart, like real smart. Like back in 1968, he won Jeopardy, right? And then
Really?
And then they brought all the Jeopardy winners back, and he played all the winners, and he beat all of them too. So he had a mind like a steel trap.
So are you doing this with historians as well? Are you trying to make it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, historical stuff. Well, I regard the Gospels as history. It's verifiable history. Some people say, oh, it's a fairy tale. He never existed, but he did. And there are other accounts, verifiable historical accounts outside the biblical ones that also bear this up, that yes, he did exist. And the other aspect of that is that all the evangelists, the apostles who went out there, every single one of those guys died rather than deny their belief. And nobody dies for a lie. Nobody.
Right.
So that's part of what I'm doing. It's like showing nobody dies for a lie.
He's got an amazing point here. No one would die for lies. The disciples saw the miracles and heard the truth for which they were ready to die terrible deaths. Now let's see Mel talk about his experience with LA.
When I came over here, I was, oh God, I was in my mid-20s.
Right.
The first time I really came over here. You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
Right.
And nobody was really bothering to explain it to me.
They don't.
And and I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, you know, Weird Town, you know, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them, and and they tell you don't go into the house on the hill, and it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like. Could it? And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think,
Here's Mel talk about his struggles during the release of The Passion of the Christ.
That was a crazy movie because it was a great movie, but
Yeah.
it seemed like there was resistance to that movie,
Oh yeah, no, there was.
which I thought was very strange. There was like Hollywood resistance to that movie. Like people didn't like that you were making it. It seemed
no,
like.
yeah, there was a lot of opposition to it, and I don't know. I think if you ever hit on that subject matter, you're gonna get people going, because
Of course.
it's big subject matter, and it's like, you know. And my contention is, you know, when I was making it, it was like, you're making this film, and the idea was that we're all responsible for this, that his sacrifice was for all mankind, and that for all our ills and all the things in our fallen nature, it was a redemption. So, you know, and I believe that, you know, I actually am. You know, I was born into a Catholic family. I'm very Christian in my beliefs, you know. So I do actually believe this stuff to the full. So depicting that was an honor, but it was also, yeah, you got the daylights beat out of you for it.
Front. Hollywood and acting has always traditionally been a kind of an environment where people would go out and party a little bit hard.
Yeah.
Do you think that Hollywood's or actors on the whole have cleaned up their act nowadays? Does it feel a healthier place and a healthier environment?
I don't know. I think it's just gone more underground. But
Okay.
it's always been a pretty crazy place for that.
Yeah.
But it's always been kind of underground, I think. You know, you mean with all the Me Too stuff and
everything.
or everything, yeah. I was contemplating, you know, going over there. I mean, I think I'd already been there. And I said to him, so tell me about, you know, should I, you know, if I want to act over there, should I go to New York or Los Angeles? And he said, he thought about it for a minute, and he looked at me, and he was older than I was, and he'd been around. And he said, go to New York. And I said, why? And he said, he said, well, you know, New York's kind of a tough place. He said, you know, the worst thing that's going to happen to you there is you're going to get mugged in Central Park.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'll stay out of Central Park. And he said, well, I said, why wouldn't you want me to go? He says, Los Angeles. He says, how should I put this? He says, in New York, you might get mugged, or, you know, they'll say F you, or, you know, whatever. But in Los Angeles, like, it's kind of like they want to sacrifice you.
Mel truly isn't afraid to share the truth about Hollywood, but the next part shows just how strong of a believer Mel really is. After losing one of his houses in LA wildfires, here's his response.
You know, I'm being stripped down and prepared for something else. Now, that's maybe very personal, but I feel like the Almighty's preparing me to do something big. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. It's like, hey, look, God gives, God takes. We come in with nothing. That's the same way we go out, you know. And here's the deal. You'll always be okay. If you seek first the kingdom of God, you'll always be okay. You'll get what you need. Look at the flowers of the field. Look at the birds of the air. They get fed. They get clothed. I mean, it's Matthew, I think. But that was one of my dad's favorite passages. He said, stop worrying about stuff, about money, about stuff. So that's, I think he put that in my head when I was very young, and it stayed, and I believe it. Yeah. It's kind of an opportunity to recreate your path. I mean, it's, you gotta look at the upside of this. I mean, there's plenty of downside, and, but honestly, I see it as kind of a blessing and a purification. So, yeah, you lose. Yeah, it's going to be murder getting the insurance. I mean, everybody's reneging, and it's going to be a real cluster buster.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, that's all I had. You have to ask the essential question of, in our existence, why are the big realms of good and evil, and they exist. They're as real as we are. Why are these realms slugging it out for the souls, the hearts and souls of mankind? Why are we the meat in that sandwich? Little old us, flawed us, imperfect us. Why is that about us? And I'm trying to answer that question. I don't know if I can. I've attempted, and maybe with God's help and with image and with sound and music, we can deliver on some answers to some of those massive questions, these existential questions.
It's absolutely a blessing to have someone with an influence as much as him to be on God's side. I wish him best of luck with his faith journey, and I cannot wait for the sequel for The Passion of the Christ. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe and comment below your prayers and thoughts.